It's 10 p.m. in Banjul, and from our studios in MDI Road, this is the news. But first, the headlines. Member states of the Organization of the Islamic Conference adopted a resolution on the cause of the Palestinians, urging a membership in major international organizations. Madam Zainab Jami attends a special session of First Ladies Leadership on Cancer Control, hosted by Turkey's First Lady Amine Erdogan on the sidelines of the OIC summit. The National Assembly and the community of Jaloko to present farm produce to the Gambian leader through the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Aissatou Saidi. And the Nigerian government confirms the authenticity of a video purportedly showing some of the Chibok girls abducted by Boko Haram militants some 2 years ago. Well, viewers, these and other stories coming ahead this half hour. I am your presenter, TENNENG GITTEH. Welcome back. Member states of the Organization of the Islamic Conference have adopted a resolution in the cause of the Palestinians. OIC leaders also called for Palestinian membership of UNESCO and also the protection of all cultural heritage sites in the occupied territories. The President, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Al-Haji Dr. Yahya Ejeje Jammeh Babili Mansa, is among fellow OIC leaders in Turkey who are attending the 13th OIC Summit. Agent Silva tells us more from Istanbul.
After several years of political back and forth on the decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which has claimed thousands of lives on both sides, leaders from the 57 OIC countries have finally adopted a resolution on the cause of the Palestinians. The Palestinian struggle was actually the backdrop of the establishment of the Islamic body some 47 years ago in Morocco after an alleged criminal attack on the Alaska Mosque in the occupied Jerusalem. The OIC has since sided with the Palestinians, advocating for Palestine's full membership in UNESCO, by the same token calling on the custodian of the world's cultural heritage sites to adopt it. During an extraordinary Islamic summit in Indonesia early this year, the OIC condemned what it called the persistent apartheid Israeli policies of oppression on the Palestinian people, accusing Israel for changing the demography and social makeup of Al-Quds and its encroachment on the Alaska Mosque in Jerusalem. And as leaders converged for another crucial summit in Turkey, the Palestinian issue was one of the key topics discussed and unanimously adopted, giving hope for a potential peace process and a two-state solution. The historic move was approved of by the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who reiterated his country's high-level support to the Palestinians, urging OIC to work side by side with the international organization in order to speed up the peace process in the area. The OIC Istanbul Summit also saw the adoption of an Istanbul communique and declaration, as well as an Islamic body's 2016-2015 joint plan of action. The working tool is likely expected to usher in a new strategic vision for the Muslim world, as well as address unprecedented security and humanitarian crises facing the Middle East. Agent Silva, GRTS, Istanbul, Turkey.
Turkey is trying to unite the Islamic world and lead the fight against terror with a new Istanbul-based police force tasked with tackling extremism in the region. At the same time, Ankara has called for the liberation of occupied Islamic lands. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced the Organization of Islamic Cooperation has accepted his proposal to create a multinational police center based in Istanbul to battle terrorism. The new structure is to be called OIC Center for Police Cooperation and Coordination. It will be helpful to establish a structure among member states that will strengthen and institutionalize cooperation against terror and other crimes, he said during a speech at the two-day OIC summit, as over 30 heads of states from Islamic countries gathered in Istanbul. The aim, according to Erdogan, is to fight Islamic State, IS, formerly ISIS, or ISIL, in Iraq, Syria, Libya, Boko Haram, and Al-Shabaab in Africa. All these terror organizations oppress and harm all Muslims. The Islamic Republic of the Gambia would like to express its gratitude to members of the international community, particularly Friends of the Gambia, for their roles in complementing the role of government in pursuing its development agenda over the years. The government of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia respects its commitment to upholding the principles of the United Nations in relation to the observance of sovereignty and non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries. In the same vein, the government also expects all members of the international community to extend the same respect with regards to state sovereignty to the Islamic Republic of the Gambia, desist from interfering in the internal domestic affairs of the country. The government takes the security of the country seriously and will not therefore condone any untoward activities or actions that may jeopardize the stability in the country. In view of the foregoing, the government hereby reassures the people of the Gambia that it will continue to stand for and guard the national interests at all times. Meanwhile, Her Excellency the First Lady of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia, Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, was among several other First Ladies who attended the 13th Summit of the Organization of Islamic Conference Special Session on First Ladies' Leadership on Cancer Control of OIC member states, hosted by Amini Erdogan, First Lady of Turkey. The forum, which brought together member states from across the OIC, is meant to discuss a common platform towards tackling cancer. The convergence came at a time when Her Excellency, the First Lady, Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, is also spearheading efforts in the fight against cancer. Mamounu Jai reports from Istanbul.
Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia, Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, was among several other First Ladies who attended the 13th Summit of the Organization of Islamic Conference Special Session on First Ladies' Leadership on Cancer Control on OIC member states, hosted by Amini Erdogan, First Lady of Turkey in the Turkish city of Istanbul. The forum, which brought together member states from across the OIC members and observer states, health professionals, scientists, advocates against cancer and other relevant stakeholders, is meant to discuss a common platform towards tackling cancer. Accompanied by senior government officials, First Lady Jammeh addressed the meeting highlighting successes registered by the Gambia in combating the disease that has become among the leading cause of deaths in modern times. Having First Ladies from OIC countries address cancer issues is envisaged to serve as a powerful visible display of Muslim women making important contributions to public life. At the end of the session, a declaration was signed by OIC First Ladies committing themselves to raise awareness about the increasing cancer burden on OIC member states and to support efforts for expanding access to effective cancer prevention, diagnosis, treatment and care. Mamoudou Njai reporting from Istanbul, Turkey.
The National Assembly and the community of Jalokoto in the Fonyi district of West Coast region jointly presented up to 500 bags of agricultural produce being proceeds from their respective farms. The Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Aisatunjai Sedi, received the bags at a ceremony held at State House attended by the National Assembly members in a cross-section of the community of Jalokoto. In a separate engagement, Dr. Njai Sedi presented a cash amount of $400,000 to Jammeh Associate, a group of artists on behalf of President Jammeh. Mamoudou Njai has the rest of that story.
The presentation ceremony, which was held at the State House grounds, was attended by members of the National Assembly and elders of the two communities of Jirungu and Jalokoto. Speaking on behalf of our colleagues, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Fadumbai, said this is the first such presentation of farm produce generated from their farm in Jirungu, Opanyomi. A total of over 300 bags of rice and corn was presented to the President through his Vice, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Aisatunjai Sedi. The National Assembly has been working on the farm for the past few years, but Honorable Mbai believes the land has even greater potential if fully utilized. She gave the National Assembly's commitment to the President's agriculture philosophy whilst also thanking the community of Jurungu for the support. The Speaker of the House, Honorable Abdullahi Bojang, urged the Ministry of Agriculture to support the Jurungu farm as it could produce even greater yields if they have the necessary farm implements. Mamadou Chadi Cham, Chief of Opanyomi, praised the National Assembly members for their solidarity with the President's cause, saying their choice of Jurungu for a farm has exposed the village to the outside world. He believes that the farm is seriously underutilized at the moment and make a direct appeal to the Agriculture Ministry to support his village with fertilizer and farm machinery. A representative of the women of Jurungu said her community is fully behind the President in his quest to ensure true national independence. She also extended a hand of friendship to the Vice President by presenting vegetable produce as a gesture of goodwill. She equally called for support to the community of Jurungu, particularly women, to realize their potentials. The people of Jalakoro also made a presentation of nearly 200 bags of groundnut and sesame to the Gambian leader. Alima Jaju, the APRC village chairperson, paid tribute to Professor Jame for championing national development, which lays emphasis on national food self-sufficiency, among other things. She also praised the managing director of the Gambia Ports Authority for his passionate commitment to the farm. Alima outlined plans to expand the farm this year, saying already 25 bags of groundnut are set aside as seeds. Mamadou Lamin Sanyang, the managing director of the Gambia Ports Authority, said the farm was initiated some few years ago in response to the President's calls for Gambians to grow what they eat. The farm continues to attract more volunteers from the neighboring villages, something that comes with challenges. Managing Director Sanyang appealed for farm implements and fertilizer to enable them to undertake large-scale production, as their long-term plan is to make it a district farm. The Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Serifo Bojang, said government is fully aware of the situation at the two farms and would take appropriate action to meet the needs of the farmers. The Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Esatu Njai Sedi, thanked the National Assembly and the two communities of Jurungu and Jalakota for the presentations. Dr. Njai Sedi praised President Jammeh for transforming the Gambia beyond the dreams of Gambians, something she continued has ushered in through national independence. She urged Gambians to continue to work harder to attain national food sufficiency as envisaged by our leader. The Vice President also thanked the women of Jurungu for their friendship and handed a token as a gesture of appreciation. Talking about the National Assembly, Dr. Njai Sedi described the legislative body as the most vibrant and hailed them for setting the pace for others. He said the National Assembly have shown real commitment, hard work and patriotism, whilst expressing hope that they will continue to produce more in the coming years. Government, he concluded, will provide the needs of farmers, as this is one of the many goals of the President, who is an accomplished farmer himself. In a separate development, Dr. Njai Sedi presented a cash amount of $400,000 to Jammeh Associate, an association of young artists led by veteran artist Mamadou Rex Bojang. The Minister of Tourism and Culture, Benjamin Roberts, said this gesture is typical of the Gambian leader.
We are not surprised that His Excellency has been gracious enough to make yet another donation to encourage you and the group. I believe at that meeting we had all given our words of advice and encouragement in terms of how this group could actually take this to the other level.
Mamadou Rex Bojang, who led the group, was speechless, but mustered this after receiving the money.
What His Excellency has done is really far beyond words that I can use to express my delight. I have no other word to say but to promise him that I will stick onto my promise to continue the good work. In actual fact, this is just a documentation of his achievements, but I am now thinking of targeting the schools. And I think it is proper when we talk about revolution, let us think of the young generations who will be the future of tomorrow.
The Vice President thanked the group for telling the story of the revolution as it is and for their commitment to the President.
It tells the story of the revolution from 1994 to date. It tells the story of a great man as well, His Excellency the President, Sir Professor Alhaji Dr. A.J.J. Jammeh. We know where he's found us, and we know where he took us, we know where he's leading us, as we always say in the local language. You have every hope that he will lead us to a brighter future, and already the future is bright. So His Excellency is appreciative of that, and that is why he's appreciative of your works, and he's appreciative of the commitment, the dedication that you have shown, the diligence. It took you 3 to 4 years, for you 4 years, for the others 3 years. That shows commitment. Others fell by the wayside, but you decided to go on. Just like His Excellency the President, he goes on all the time. without any fatigue. And that is what you have shown. And today, His Excellency is appreciative and is rewarding you with a token sum of $400,000.
Mamadou Diallo, GRTS News.
The Mansakonko-based Rural Development Institute Wednesday held its first lecture series, a platform designed to broaden the knowledge of participants of the newly introduced diploma program in development studies by the institute. Our Ibrahim Jallo explains that the day-long lecture series was interactive and educative.
Rural Development Institute, RDI, was established in 1979 as the main training institute under the Department of Community Development. Since then, hundreds if not thousands have received professional training. Wednesday's session marks the start of a lecture series that should be held 3 times during the 9-month diploma program recently introduced by the Institute in its drive to provide advanced community development training.
RDI is a national training center for excellence mandated to carry out both pre-service and in-service training needs of the Department of Community Development in particular, and other public and private sectors as well as NGO communities.
The governor of Lower River Region acknowledged the importance of the institute and called for collective action to strengthen its operations.
I am very much pleased that RDI is in my region because it plays a very important role in the development of this country. I said it during the retreat that we had in Janjambure. The minister was there, the POs was there, and many of them were there. Now, if you go into the history of this country, how can we decentralize in this country when we don't have better able VDCs in this country? It cannot be possible. In fact, as of now, most of our VDCs are not functional anymore. It's very good that I say it in this forum. And we only hope that the CDAs would be able to help us so that we'll be able to make an impact as far as decentralization is concerned. So therefore, I am still insisting that we must focus on RDI.
Permanent Secretary 1, Minister of Lands and Regional Government, Buli Diba, said RDI is high on his ministry's agenda, while stating the need to erect a fence around the school premises.
Honestly, RDI is always very high on our agenda, and we really want to work with the Department of Community Development to see how best we can turn things around RDI. I was one time talking to Sonko. I said, I think it will be necessary to invite some key stakeholders for a one-day tour or a visit of RDI so that people see for themselves the conditions at this institution. I know some people will be very sad when they know or see for themselves what is happening at RDI, and we have no excuse for that.
The seminar saw experts share knowledge and experience with resource persons like Chibok Sonko, Head of Development Unit, UTG, and Dr. Sida Siafa, School of Agriculture and Environment, University of the Gambia, among others, injecting diverse knowledge into the minds of participants. Although RDI has been graduating students since 1979, many perhaps don't know what this institute has to offer. Usman Sonko is the Vice Principal and a Senior Lecturer at RDI.
The rationale behind organizing this seminar, one, is to showcase the role of Rural Development Institute in national development in general. 2, because this is a new program, it's a national qualification. We want people to understand. And it is also a way of marketing strategy, because for a typical urban personnel in the Gambia, when you talk to him about the Rural Development Institute, it sounds new. We hope with this type of convergence, Gambians will begin to understand what is meant by Rural Development Institute.
The seminar seems to have met the expectation of the participants. No wonder, some have already started calling for a repeat.
The day-long section is very interactive and is very educative because we learn so many things in this seminar.
It is hoped that the authorities will heed to the call of the participant and the numerous others who could voice out their wishes. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
Well, we take a break. When we return, we take a look at news from beyond our borders. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In Nigeria, Nigerian security forces are facing growing pressure to find more than the 200 schoolgirls who were abducted by Boko Haram militants 2 years ago. Security chiefs are expected to brief the Senate next week on the rescue efforts, and this follows CNN report on a proof-of-life video that provided new hope that at least some of the girls missing may still be alive. We have more of that in the CNN report.
It's the glimmer of hope parents have been waiting for. A video showing 15 of the Chibok girls sent to negotiators by their captors as proof of life. CNN obtained the video from a person close to the negotiations to get the girls released, and we shared it with parents of the missing girls. But these young women in the video are only a handful of those girls abducted now, 2 years ago. April 14, 2014, 276 schoolgirls taken in the night by Boko Haram gunmen. A few dozen escaped. But since then, there's been only silence. Silences no one! Despite a global campaign to bring back our girls, 2 years later, they remain missing. Facing heavy criticism, Nigeria's government remains under pressure to bring them home.
Fervently believe that the girls are alive, but probably based on security analysis, they might not be, you cannot get them in one group. They might have been dispersed into several cells.
In Nigeria's capital, supporters and families of the missing marched to mark the solemn anniversary. Among the demonstrators, Esther Yakubu. Her daughter Juliana was one of those kidnapped. Another news crew showed her our story. She broke down in tears, saying she recognized the girls.
I saw girls, and through their Chibok girls, I recognized some of them because we are in the same area with them. So I recognize them. They are the Chibok girls.
It's the first sighting of the girls in nearly 2 years, and after an agonizing wait, families of the missing hope the video is not yet another false lead.
We believe that these girls will be found, and very soon too, and be returned to their families.
It's the
In Japan, aftershocks are disrupting rescue efforts after 2 earthquakes hit the south of the country. Authorities said at least 9 people were killed and around 800 injured in the island of Kisu. A nearby nuclear plant is reported to be safe, with authorities saying there was no danger of a repeat of the Fukushima disaster 5 years ago. We have more on that story in this DWTV report.
Good news in a dark night. An 8-month-old baby rescued from the rubble, seemingly unharmed. The morning light reveals significant damage across the region. The tremors collapsed buildings and tore gaping holes into major traffic routes. The Japanese army were busy cooking rice and handing out food parcels for those who had to leave their homes. For many of the residents, it's still not safe to return. I'm praying for the souls of those who perished in the earthquake and offer my sympathy to the families of the dead, the injured and the evacuated, all those affected by the disaster. The government continues to do everything it can to rescue and assist survivors. Our first priority is the safety of residents. For some, it seemed almost business as normal. I didn't go to any evacuation center. I just brought out my blanket, since I have a big yard. I was so surprised. Afterwards, I couldn't sleep at all. A weather camera captured the moment the quake struck at 9:26 p.m. local time. Journalists at the local broadcaster's office were still at work when the earth shook. More than 40,000 spent the night in streets and parks as aftershocks continued for hours after the main quake. Authorities launched a huge rescue and recovery operation. 5 years after Fukushima, the quake renewed concerns over the safety of 2 nuclear reactors at Sendai Power Station, just 120 kilometers away from the epicenter. They are said to be operating normally. For people in Mashiki, the most immediate concern is how they will piece their lives back together.
Well, with that, we'll take a second break, but up next is the weather report. Do stay with us. Welcome back, and let's now join the Central Forecast Office for the look at the day's weather outlook.
Hello, this is the weather report from the Central Forecast Office, and we'll begin with a summary of the day's weather conditions, where we experienced sunny and very warm conditions across the entire country during the day. We now move over to the satellite image where we can see convective clouds over parts of Central and Eastern Africa, and these areas are still experiencing some rainy, lightning and thundery activities. And elsewhere over the coast of the Gulf of Guinea states, we can see medium clouds prevailing across these regions. Now tonight, we're expecting generally dry and warm atmospheric conditions to prevail across most parts of the country, and as we move towards the late hours of the morning, temperatures will change to cool conditions, especially over the coastal sectors of the country, and these weather conditions will of course be accompanied with occasionally breezy conditions, and as we move towards the inland parts of the country, temperatures will as well be accompanied with misty conditions. And these cool conditions will prevail tomorrow morning, and as we gradually move towards the afternoon, temperatures will change to warm conditions, and as the day progresses, these weather conditions will change to sunny and very warm conditions across the entire country. Surface wind flows over the coastal sectors of the country will be northwesterlies in direction, and they will be running at a speed of 25 kilometers per hour. And elsewhere over the eastern sectors of the country, easterly winds are going to prevail across these regions, and they will be running at a speed of 5 to 15 kilometers per hour. Temperatures will go up to a minimum of 23 degrees Celsius, as you can see over Upper River region, going up to 21 degrees over Central River region, and this will drop down to 20 degrees over Lower River, 19 over North Bank. West Coast will record 17 degrees, and the Greater Banjul areas will record 16 degrees Celsius respectively. And this will increase to a maximum of 43 degrees Celsius over Upper River region, and areas around this region will experience very hot temperatures, and as well as Central River region, as you can see, 42 degrees Celsius over these areas. Lower River region will as well record 42, and the North Bank region, whereas West Coast regions and Greater Banjul areas will record 41 degrees Celsius respectively. At 11 a.m. we'll have a low tide of 0.6 meter, and at 6 a.m. we'll have a high tide of 1.3 meter and 1.5 meter at 6 p.m. At 6:51, the sun will rise and sets at 19:21. That's the weather forecast, and a good night.
Well, that looks like an extremely warm day ahead. With that, viewers, we come to the end of this newscast. But before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of our day's main stories. Member states of the Organization of Islamic Conference have adopted a resolution on the cause of the Palestinians urging membership in major international organizations. Madam Zainab Jammeh has attended a special session of First Lady's Leadership on Cancer Control, hosted by Turkey's First Lady Amini Erdogan on the sidelines of the OIC summit. The National Assembly and the community of Jalokota have presented farm produce to the Gambian leader through the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Estunjai Sedi. And the Nigerian government has confirmed the authenticity of the video purportedly showing some of the Chibok girls abducted by Boko Haram militants some 2 years ago. Well, viewers, that was all for this edition. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with us, and I'm your presenter, TENNENG GITTEH. Have a pleasant evening.